I think that's it. So you'll be all right. All right, and we are rolling.
All right, what's up, y'all, man? This is a special live broadcast of PMG Radio in conjunction with No Mercy TV. We have a very, very, very great guest, a great group of guests on today's episode. Here we're going to be talking about rape culture in our current society and inappropriate sexual behavior in the work environment. I couldn't get everybody name tags because we're online, so let's have everybody introduce themselves. Let's start with No Mercy and the Love.
Yep, No Mercy, Trap New York shit, NoMercyTV.com, No Mercy TV podcast, all that good stuff. I'm here with the missus.
Hi guys, how are you? It's Myrtle.
Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jana Jefferson. I am a music and culture journalist, and I live in New York.
Hi, I'm Kaylin. I'm from South Carolina, but now I currently live in LA. I work in the music industry and the airline industry.
All right, Mick.
Mickey Fax, hip-hop artist out of Bronx, New York.
All right, Liza.
Hi, I'm Eliza. You can call me Elizabeth. I co-host with Peso PMG on the radio show, and apart from that, I do sales and marketing, but most importantly, I'm a singer. So that's my passion. But it's nice to meet all of you guys today. I've seen some of you before. Hey, Janae.
Hi.
How you doing, girl?
All right, and I'm Peso, Ramon Marketing and Promotions Company, notorious Bronx native. All right, so let's get it going, y'all, man. I want to start with Jenna because she, well, let's give a little background on how this whole thing came about in the first place. As we all know, there's been a young man who's been very much so on social media based off of past allegations of very inappropriate behavior towards women. His name is Chris Styles, correct?
Yeah, Chris Styles.
Okay, I wasn't too familiar with this young man before all this came up, but apparently he's a party promoter. And correct me on any of this. He's a party promoter and a host, right?
For yeah, he do something with Duce Palooza, I think.
Palooza, yeah.
That's right.
Okay. And then from there, Mickey made a post that pretty much went a lot of places yesterday. Mickey, how exactly did you title your post?
I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something like, I think, rape culture. We need to have a discussion on rape culture, something to that effect.
Right. And then previous before that, I had posted something in which Kaylin responded, and then Kaylin asked that, we have a conversation about a pretty similar topic. And then Jenna posted something, and then that connected us all here today.
Yes.
Okay. So that's been a very steaming topic over the last 48 hours or so. So let's start here, and I want everybody to chime in on this. What exactly is rape culture? How do we characterize that, quantify it, identify it, define it? What is rape culture? Let's start with Jenna.
To me, I think that rape culture is anything that could be classified as harassment, assault. It could be abuse, anything that makes someone else feel uncomfortable if it's not, consensual. And it perpetuates uncomfortable feelings within another person that they didn't agree to, and that just makes them feel just absolutely terrible. I think that anything that makes someone feel in an uncomfortable way perpetuates rape culture, because one thing can lead to another. Not saying it always does, but it can lead to another, and it all kind of falls under the same umbrella of rape culture: harassment, assault, abuse, etc.
Got you. What about you, Kaylin? Are you familiar with that term?
I am. I kind of go along the same lines as Jana. I think it's a violation, a sexual violation of another human being, harassment, verbally, all of that. So along the same line.
Mick, what did you pull from the post yesterday in that term?
I think when I made that post yesterday, and again, I'm cleaning some chicken, so pardon me. But when I made that post yesterday, it was obviously after seeing the Chris Styles post. and just seeing what he was doing. And, you know, he, it wasn't just a scenario where he was, you know, I think he did drug or he did spike some alcohol, but aside from that, it was this level of power that he was showcasing to women and making them feel bad about themselves and leaving them stranded in different places and things like that, along with some really spicy text messages, you know, that got leaked as well. And, you know, and just before we got on this call today, Blogzilla, I don't know if you guys know about Blogzilla, he just got outed today as well.
Definitely. Yep.
So, you know, again, and his, you know, he had there was one that was kind of like a Bill Cosby kind of thing, but, you know, there was another where he was, you know, he was a guy in position of power in the music and the movie industry who would, you know, reveal himself to women or do certain things in terms of text messages and sexting, and using his position of power to deny women jobs, internships, and, you know, blackballing basically. So I would have to agree with the two young ladies previously saying, you know, anytime, you know, you use your power or you use anything to kind of, you know, perpetuate this continuous problem, and, you know, potentially it can even be deeper than that, which is probably what we're going to talk about later today.
Yeah, no, definitely, we'll definitely get into all that. See, I think one of the main purposes of this discussion is to try to unblur those lines. You understand what I'm saying? So making it abundantly clear to people out there, like, you know, where this is coming from and how people feel this. Mercy and Murtaugh, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, for me, as someone who's been in a management position, I was, you know, trained on how to pinpoint when certain people were being violated and, you know, harassed in a negative way. And I feel that as much as the person who is doing the harassing is as much as fault, there's also a blame that needs to be put on the people who know about it and don't say anything and don't do anything to stop it.
All right, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. Eliza, have you experienced any of this in your endeavors in the business industry?
Sorry. Yeah, definitely. As a woman in New York City, trying to do anything in the industry, I think that you're going to find that a lot of it is normalized. So I think that's what I find about rape culture, is that, you know, you'll have people who are knowingly doing things like this. Like, for example, with this dude Chris, it's new to us, but, you know, there's been people that he's been in the industry with for a long time who have known about certain behaviors, but it's normalized because of gender role, because of status. So I think the normalization of rape culture is very important to discuss.
And I want to be clear, we have 4 business women on this line. Each one of these women work in fields. You know, we don't have strippers here. We don't have OnlyFans girls here. We don't have any of these. We have women of substance here who have professional jobs. So, okay, all 4 of you can say you've dealt with inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace.
Yes. Well, in a work environment, yeah. It's supposed to be a professional environment, and some things, yeah.
What about you, Kaylin? You can say you've dealt with inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we could say in the workplace, sorry to interject, not just in the workplace, but just even with people who you don't necessarily work with directly, but they claim to be professionals or people who are in a certain social circle or a certain industry. So you may not even work with them directly, but they claim to be, you know, somebody who is respectable and, you know, professional.
Okay. I got you. So, Mickey, let me ask you this. As a man, when do you draw the line between trying to holler and going too far?
Well, it's a blurry line, you know. I feel like me being a hip hop artist, you know, back in the days, you know, we was DMing we was DMing in on Black Planet, you know what I'm saying? And I don't believe you know, when I was working at a law firm during the time, a lot of the women that I were working with were older women. So I didn't have, you know, any interactions with women on that type of time where it was like I was being, you know, I would advance on them in that type of time because they were all older than me. I was very young at my age, and I was more so trying to soak up game, you know, from women, you know what I'm saying? So that was what I was doing back in the days. When I became an MC and a rapper, obviously there was more of a spotlight on me in terms of power. But I don't really, you know, I think when it came to talking to women, we were moving into a digital space. You know, it was taboo to be on Black Planet. It was taboo to be on MySpace. So, you know, once I started, you know, going to events and things like that, then, you know, you holler at women that way. And if, you know, if they weren't interested, then they weren't interested, and you just keep it moving. You know, I just don't understand, you know, these particular incidents with Blockzilla and Chris Styles, where, you know, they're revealing body parts. You know, they are driving women home and trying to, you know, force themselves upon women. You know,
right.
I you know, that's scary to me, you know, and I even still, you know, like it raises a question of what is, I think that's a question, I think most of these questions that are asked today should be, you know, asked towards the woman, because that's when I made that post, I didn't make it for men to kind of talk. I think this is something that women should kind of be more vocal about, on how to approach women. When is it appropriate to approach women? What should be done to approach women? You know, because growing up in New York City, which is probably the capital of hollering at women.
Right, exactly.
You know what
exactly.
I'm saying? I'm not sure if, you know, we were taught properly how to approach women and how to react to rejection. You know what?
Let's stop right there for a second. Not to cut you off, Mick. Let's stop right there. Okay, let's give a case scenario, right? Let's be straight up about this, right? We have a lot of professional women in this town, and we got Kaylin, who's out there in the West Coast. LA has a lot of professional women.
Right.
A lot of these professional women are attractive at the same time, right? So let's say, for example, me and Kaylin are working on whatever kind of project, and for whatever reason, I find Kaylin to be attractive, and I shoot my shot. Right. When does it is the hollering from the beginning in a professional environment at all unprofessional? I mean, inappropriate, sexually inappropriate, or is there a line? Like, where's the line between the two? Let's start with Jana.
I feel like when stuff like that happens, in my experience, when a man in the industry tries to like talk to me, it's usually they try to find like a link between us that will kind of make it, I guess in their heads they're like, oh, it's super easy to talk to her now because like we have this in common. So if we have this in common, then maybe this will happen. Like, for example, I recently had to block somebody. We were supposed to be working on a project. It never happened. I've never met this person before. It was literally just supposed to be a project. It didn't work out that way. Then he's like, oh, like, I know, like, you're from Jersey. I'm from Jersey. I'd love to, you know, one day when I come back to the city, because he works on a project by project basis. So sometimes he's in the West Coast, sometimes he's here. He's like, I'll be in New York for the next 10 months. Obviously, this is before Corona like really took way. But he's like, I'd love to meet up with you. So we exchanged phone numbers. And I thought it was going to be like it's friendly, professional. We'll talk in the future to see, you know, what could happen in terms of
I already see where you're going with this.
Right. And he would text me like, hey, big head, and like comment on my Instagram stories, oh, you look so cute. I'm like,
yeah.
Literally never met you before. So I blocked him, and he's like, he's like, did I cross the line? I'm like, I don't know you. Yes, you've crossed the line because you're taking what I thought was supposed to be a friendly professional thing, and you're turning it into like, oh damn, she wants on. And I'm like, when did I ever make you think that I want it on because I talk to you. It seems like the line, like what, in some ways, some men think that women are, if they are talking to you, they're interested. And that's not always the case because, especially with me, it takes a lot for me to even get interested in anybody. So to have him like really think that I was gonna date him, and I'm like, no. So like, I think that we kind of have to distinguish what is tolerable in terms of just the way we speak to each other. And it seems like there's not even a lot and a lot of gray area. It's just like they're just like, let's just go in. Let's just talk.
Let's just go
She's pretty,
in,
and we'll work together, and that's it. And I'm like,
What about you, Kaylin? What's your thoughts on that? Like, you know, I see you work on something, but I find you to be attractive. I try to shoot my shot. Where's the line at for you there?
Well, Jana is clearly my girl here. I think we're like on the same pages. I think it's going to be highly individual, right? Depending on who you're dealing with, whether they're, you know, even open to that sort of relationship or connection. So I think you kind of have to feel out the boundaries and kind of go from there. Like I would, if somebody was interested in me that I'm working, I would prefer for them to ask questions like, are you seeing anyone? You know, would you be interested in getting to know each other? You know, those like preliminary questions before you just shoot it in a workplace. Right. And even like HR is a whole nother issue because I might not even like the fact that, you know, you want to consider me in that way, you know, so I just confused myself a lot. But you get what I'm saying? Like, feel it out.
Yeah, no, I get your point.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to keep it real. Keep it real, not cut you off. I feel like my advice for men would be to keep it professional till further notice.
Right. Okay.
Like, if a woman doesn't approach you in that way, I don't think you should approach her in that way because it's like, how are you gonna know?
Is that can that be classified as the same thing? Like, if a woman approaches a man and he's uncomfortable, is that the same thing? And is it looked at the same as well? You know, because that's happened to me. That's happened to me a couple times where women would hop in my DMs, you know, before I was married and get very crazy and just, you know, get very, very crazy.
You know what I think? Oh, sorry. Continue.
No. Go ahead.
You know what? I think there's so many different dynamics and different levels because people who have worked together, who've gotten married, you know, who have got great relationships, but they had an understanding, they had a vibe, a clear connection. I think that obviously it depends if somebody's approaching you and they're using sex as a bargaining tool. That also makes a difference as far as like saying, okay, you're going to have a better position in the company or you're going to progress better. That's where it's really wrong. But I think the main thing in both scenarios, whether it's male or female, is that when somebody says no, that's where you draw the line. As soon as somebody says their first no, anything after that can be considered a violation.
Yeah, you know what? And one of the key things, one of the key targeted things I wanted to get out of this, because, you know, I'm sure we've read the tons of Twitter stories that are out there regarding these individuals. I wanted to get to some sort of general consensus, because a lot of them are all over the place, right? A lot of them is, oh, well, he took me to a bar. And my thing is this, I'm going to be completely honest, right? Some of the stories I'm reading, it's like, well, I agreed to the date and I agreed to hang out and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, you know, I see the line is further for some women than it is for others.
Right. I agree.
You understand what I'm saying?
I agree, but I also, regardless of what position you are in the line, if I say no, it doesn't matter whether we're at the front door, even if we get to the bed. Like, if I change my mind, I have a right to change my mind as well. Like,
no, that's a fact.
That's true.
At whatever point I say no, I think that whoever, you know, proceeds to pursue it should be held accountable.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. Okay, Jana, you came forth with some information yesterday. Well, first of all, what sparked that for you? When made you want to tell your story on Twitter?
So I guess to preface this, Blogzilla had said some suggestive things to me a couple years ago on a press trip. I said I was 22 in the tweet, but I was actually 23, thinking about the timeline.
Okay.
I saw that one of my fellow hip hop writers, well, she doesn't work in the field anymore, but she did. She worked very closely with Zilla at Global Grind. She apparently was being harassed by him via text, from what I gather. So she came forward and said, like, he did this and this happened that year and he did this that year. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is like, I've been waiting for this day as I like, it needed to happen because I've heard that so many people were approached by him. But my situation happened 2017. I was 23. It was my very first press trip. It was at Broccoli City in Washington, D.C. And, you know, if you're ever given the opportunity to go on a press trip, they fly you out, you get free everything. And it's just like really glamorous. So they make sure that you're, you know, taken care of. So you write something nice about it. So we had just finished dinner, the whole group. And then it was me, Zilla, and another blogger, a female blogger. We all went to the hotel and we were having drinks in the lobby. I remember I said I would rather have vodka. But he's like, oh no, let's get this. Like, you need something stronger. So I ended up getting very, very drunk. And I was like, I have to go to bed. I have to wake up early because tomorrow is Broccoli City. I have a couple interviews I have to conduct at the festival. So I went back to my bedroom and I'm like, I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to go to bed. And Zilla had texted me and he's like, oh, I thought you were going to come to my room and we were going to talk more and build and find out how to build your career and grow. And I'm like, no, like, what made you think that? He's like, well, you seemed like you were into it. I'm like, no. And I actually was so drunk that night, I actually ended up throwing up. So he gave me a lot.
A lightweight.
He gave me a lot to drink. And since like I said, I wanted a specific type of drink and I wasn't given that. He just kept giving me drinks and shots and all this stuff. So then the next day, I'm like, that was very uncomfortable to me that he would even imply that I would come up to his hotel room.
Right.
I'm like, I literally just met you today. So I had gone downstairs in the lobby. We were getting ready to go to the festival. And I just like tried to keep my distance from him the whole time. And then he's like, oh, like, you know, when legends tell you to do something, you do it. And I'm like,
oh,
what the fuck are you talking about? So I'm like, I'm going to just keep my distance. And then he said something like that again at the festival because he was like, oh, like, come and like take this picture with me and this other blogger that was there. And I'm like, I don't want to. And he's like, no, like when two legends, I'm like, you said that already. Like, I'm like, I don't want to be, I don't want to be.
Right, I don't want to be around legends.
I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I'm like, I've had enough. And I was like, you know, I was hungover clearly. I'm like, I'd rather just not be around you right now.
Now, had you heard any rumblings about his behavior prior to that situation with you?
I had never heard who he was until that day.
Okay.
Like literally never heard of Blackzilla till that very day that I had met him. I had never met him, never heard of him, nothing. I had no idea. So
now,
then,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. So when I got back to my office and I was like, oh, did you guys know like Blogzilla is really creepy? And one of my editors, I used to work at Global Grind, and she's like, oh. So she told me like she used to also be approached by him and he was very creepy towards her. Then I had another friend who was an intern there. She's like, yeah, like people had been saying that he would say some things and he apparently would say some really like sexually suggestive things, but he like ran a sex blog or something. So they're like, oh, it's just kind of how he is. Right. But I had no idea. Not only I didn't know who he was, I didn't know he could be like that. He just seemed really nice. And then like when he said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's gross. I'm 23 years old and you're like 37. Like, I don't know. It was just very uncomfortable. And like he was asking me a lot of questions about my then boyfriend. Like I was texting him and I had like a little red heart emoji by his name. And he's like, oh, who has the pleasure of like having that emoji next to his name? Tell me about your relationship. And I'm like, I don't know you. Like, it just like very strange kind of questions and behavior and very suggestive. And I'm like, this is weird.
So is there is there a point in time where you directly confronted him about it, or your just thoughts was just, you know what, I gotta stay away from this guy. He's a weirdo.
I literally haven't spoken to him. I would ask him if he had any like leads on any job, because I was laid off from my former publication in September. So I think I had asked him in maybe like December, like, hey, have you heard anything about any leads? He's like, oh, I don't know, but like if you have any leads yourself, let me know. And I'm like, okay, cool, because I think Global Grind had like just laid him off like last month or something. So like he's like, I need a new job, and I'm like, can't help you there because I need one too. So I ran into him, I think last year in the subway, but I was basically like, hey, I gotta go. Like I was just like, I don't want to talk to you. Like you're making me uncomfortable. So
let me jump to Kaylin real quick. Kaylin, do you have an experience where you felt like you was put in a corner by a man?
I do. I have several. I can't really pinpoint it to one, but I definitely relate to instances like that. You know, even down to the physical, somebody hugging you and you're not quite sure, like saying weird things as they hug you, but you're not quite sure how to respond because it's supposed to be a professional environment. But then again, this person has power, so they may be able to take you far. It's just the headspace it puts you in. I definitely am familiar with that.
So do these men in power, do they say sexually suggestive things that would make you feel like based on their position, you should sleep with them?
Some people do. I mean, I've had somebody basically tell me, if you sleep with me, I'll help you progress in your career, basically. Or more in words of like, if I help you with your career, what are you going to do for me? It can be put in various ways, but I've heard stuff like that directly.
I mean, No Mercy, where do you think this kind of ego from these dudes come from?
Pretty much them being weirdos and not being any type of power, attention. Like, with social media, a lot of this stuff just comes overnight for a lot of these guys. So you have a lot of these guys who, growing up, they probably didn't have a social circle. They didn't have proper people around them for them to have certain dealings and have certain interactions. Certain stuff you learn as a teen, you're not going to carry into your, adult life. And I just feel like a lot of these guys just haven't been experienced in like just being social. New York is a place where we get out early. Like we out 11, 12 years old. We taking walks, whether it's to like 125th or Fordham or wherever, and we're having, these discussions with whether it's people from our hood or meeting people along the way. Like we just grow to know people at a faster rate than a lot of places. And I feel like, these guys just haven't been having those good social experiences to where they learn like, yo, this is not how you treat a female. I feel like some things should just come natural as far as like how to address a female, how to approach a female for conversation, how to handle rejection. Like at a certain age, you should know how to do these things. If you're in your late 20s and in your 30s and you're still, messing up and getting into, situations like what we've seen over the past 48 hours, then it's clearly something wrong with everybody. It gotta be.
Right. Especially when so many people have these stories. Go ahead, Myrtle.
So I look at the bigger picture when it comes to someone's behavior. I'm like an investigator. So with his situation,
all of you?
I will go back and see what was his upbringing like, what was going on with his family. Because sometimes you don't know that instinctively, just putting someone in a position of power, now they feel that whatever was done to them when they were younger, they feel like they can do it to other people.
Well, I mean, and also in a nutshell, too, it just comes down to knowing how to separate your dick from business.
Yeah.
Like,
That too, but I'm just saying, like, there are other factors that I look at before I say, okay, so he was 100% wrong. You understand?
All right, so go ahead.
Wrong, but you, how can I say? Like, I don't feel like there's really much bail shooting you can do for certain situations. Like, it's just like, yo, when a female is not interested, she's not interested.
Right. You just gotta know how to respect the curve.
Yeah, it's really that plain and simple. I feel like, you know, and sometimes I just don't know what it is with guys. Like, why they feel like if a woman says no, that means to continue pursuing. Like, no, if she says no, then go on about your business.
Like I'm pretty sure Mickey could attest this. Mickey, we came from a town to where we knew how to respect the curve. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we again, you know, just aside from, first of all, niggas was going outside, going to skate key, you know, going to different parties in the Bronx, and you know, once I started working, you know, I kind of, you know, fell back from the party scene a little bit. And I just kind of fell into the Black Planet kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I did Black Planet for a while. And that curve, you know, you learned early on Black Planet, you know, if you getting curved, that's it. You know, you don't get crazy. So the DMs was popping since 2002, but you knew not to cross the line, you know, even online, because again, like I said previously, Black Planet and online dating in the early 2000s was extremely taboo because of, you know, you didn't know who you were meeting. It's not like how it is now. Like, people feel safe now dating online. But back then, like, if you told anybody that you were on Black Planet looking for women, you were an automatic creep. Like, you were automatic creep. And you know, you just have to. I don't know. I feel like this is just. I don't know. It's very disappointing. You know. Yeah, I spoke to my wife about this, and you know, she said, you know, we have, you know, as men, we have to kind of look at it like, listen, you know, 95% of the women that we know have potentially been harassed or have an experience, and 90% of the men you know have potentially done something. You know what I'm saying, to a woman, you know, and it doesn't mean it has to be rape. You know, it can be a myriad of things, you know, and I think that is what, you know, should be discussed. It's like, you know, even when it comes to like rejection, it's just like rejection is rejection, but you know, it's how the man responds to the rejection, and you know, the advance, the trysts, you know, when somebody, I think it was No Mercy, he said, when no means no, but for whatever reason in the 90s and in the early 2000s, sometimes men felt like no means yes. They playing hard to get, you know what I'm saying? And these were songs that were, there's even a song called that, She's Playing Hard to Get. So, you know, these things, you know, are, you know, they're engraved in the male psyche.
But as a man, you should know that time and place are everything. Like, if it's a situation that Jana was describing, where we're clearly there for a business purpose,
right?
That was not the time for that, my nigga.
Absolutely not.
Like, unless she's making that, you know what I mean? Unless she's pursuing it, stick to business. Like, let's get the work done.
I agree.
And I can holler at someone when I get home. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we gotta know that, you know, no woman should feel uncomfortable simply trying to get her job done.
I agree completely.
Fact of the matter. Let's go into this now.
Yo, P, I'm about to get up out of here. It was good during the discussion. Martell is gonna stay on and, you know, continue on, and she's gonna end the meeting when it's over.
Got you. All right.
Peace, bro.
All right. Man.
So let me ask y'all this, because when the Chris Styles thing came out, there were a ton of women who came forward, both publicly and anonymously. Let me start with Kaylin on this question. How do we get to that 10th or 15th woman without anyone saying anything publicly? Like, why does it stretch that far before it ever gets put out there publicly?
You know what? To be honest with you, I'm not even all that familiar with the Chris Styles situation. I think I just saw your tweet responding about the incident. I didn't even know there was a Chris Styles situation. But when you say, how do we get to the 10 or 15th women? What are you talking about? You talking about how men get that far without somebody correcting them before?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Like, how do we get that far to where his friends ain't saying nothing, his boss isn't saying nothing, his corporate sponsor isn't saying anything? Like, how does it get that far?
honest, I don't know. Like, I know as far as women, sometimes we are hesitant to address situations out of fear ourselves. I really don't know. Sometimes it's ego, sometimes it's entitlement. It's a lot of things that could come into play.
Got you. What do you think, Eliza?
So, with
I think that
Hold on,
I think
Marcella.
that a lot of people are. Oh, you said hold on.
No. I was telling Marcella. Hold on. Go ahead, Eliza.
Oh, I think that there's a lot of victim shaming or victim blaming that goes on when people speak about these things. I think that people are, they're scared. They're scared that they're not going to be believed. And then in a lot of these cases, some people don't know that there's a lot of other people. They think maybe I'm the only one, so maybe it's something that I did wrong. Maybe I led him on. And when you see that there's like 15 other chicks that have the same scenario with the same dude, then you realize, no, actually, it was him, because there's this thing called gaslighting, where somebody can manipulate you and make you feel like you're doing something wrong, or make you feel like you deserve to be treated a certain way or spoken to a certain way. Like from some of the tweets that I had read, addressing this issue, there were some people who thought that, who said that he spoke to them in such a derogatory way that it put fear in them. It made them feel scared, vulnerable, stupid, and also made them feel like they didn't want to talk about it because it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing again because sometimes you don't know whether it's something that you're creating yourself, which is what some of these ladies say, until you realize that no, you actually really are a victim. So I think that when a few people come out, it gives you the confidence to say, okay, it's not in my mind. He really did do something wrong. I really am the victim, not him. And then and that's where you see multiple people coming out. Once one person gets the ball rolling, I guess.
Got you. What was you gonna say, Marcella?
I was going to say with what Liza just said in terms of, having that support system for all women. Because as you can see with the whole Me Too movement, it took one person to come out, then you saw another person, then another person, and then next thing you know, it wasn't just a Chris Styles, a Blogzilla, it's other bloggers, it's other people in the industry, because people just kept coming out. People just kept having the courage, looking at, other women with similar stories, and they were able to come out and say, listen, this is what happened to me. And
okay.
And then also you have women who feel that they're not going to be believed because, again, it's a man's world. Men are in power, especially in the music industry. I'm sorry to say, but men are still in power in the music industry. And
but you know what? Not to cut you off. Let's fast forward to today. Don't y'all feel like the case, especially with the cases of Harvey Weinstein and actually Bill Cosby going to jail, that barrier has kind of been broken to where now y'all voices are more powerful than ever, especially when it comes to sexual allegations?
Yes, but I think the music industry still has a long way to go.
Okay.
Since it's so deeply rooted in, especially hip hop, it's so deeply rooted in misogyny that it's so hard to kind of break away from that. Especially there are so many, and it's not even just like hip hop music. Like I said, hip hop journalism is not, there's so many men in power. And from my old publication, I can attest the men do take care of their own. And the men in hip hop can get away with a lot that the girls could never dream of getting away with at all.
Got you. Mickey, what do you think as Black men, what do you think we can do to help alleviate this ongoing problem and issue that Black women are dealing with, it, especially when it comes to, them getting harassed pretty much daily?
I personally think conversations like these, listening, I feel like it's more because we are innately in power because we are men. So we are in a patriarchal system. So no matter what, we will never, and I had to learn this from being married. We will never know what it's like to, be followed. We do, if we got something nice on and somebody's trying to rob us, cool. But like, we don't know what it's like to, go somewhere and feel like somebody's following us. We don't know what it's like to be in a position of weakness because we are the stronger vessel. We don't know what it's like to constantly be degraded to just a body or a face or a sexual object. So because of this, we have to kind of just sit back and listen, as well as understand where women are coming from. I watched, you know, my wife put me on, I always joke with it, say I put her on, but my wife put me on to Law and Order SVU, and I watched that show religiously. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
and that show is awesome. And when you really, you know, watch that show and dig deep into the psyche of how men operate and act, that is the basis of rape culture. You know, the stories may be fictionalized, but they are pulling from some sort of source material. And you kind of have to look at it from different aspects. Sometimes women are not being raped on the show. Sometimes it's just crazy sexual advances, you know what I'm saying? And women are not believed at all. Women are afraid.
And there's also instances too, and I think a lot of men try to get away with this part, to where, you know, a woman will feel so, how do I say, so manipulated, or just like, you know, put in a corner to where she feels like if she doesn't give it up, she will be raped. So then she then gives it up out of that kind of fear. You understand what I'm saying? And then the man will later on say, well, it was consensual. Well, it really wasn't.
Right.
I have a question for you men though. Like, you know, I think it's important for us to hold our family and friends accountable for their actions. And I feel like if I have a friend who is saying or doing something inappropriate, it's up to me to address it. You know what I mean? They can listen to it or not. But I feel like if I see, you know, anybody doing something that is wrong, and there's somebody who I love or someone who's close to me, I should be able to address it. So my question to you guys is, you know, if you were ever around or have ever been around anybody with those kind of characteristics, or you've ever, you know, heard a man speak to a woman in a way that you don't find it is appropriate, do you feel like it's your place to address it? And would you address it? Have you addressed it? If you ever experienced any type of traits that, you know, we're kind of talking about now in a friend or associate, would you say anything to them? Would you hold your friend accountable and say, hey, listen, the way you spoke to that girl, or hey, the way you behaved?
Yeah, absolutely. No disrespect of any kind towards women will be tolerated in my presence. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I have 4 sisters, and you know, I wouldn't do anything to any other female that I wouldn't want done to them. You understand what I'm saying? Nor would I allow somebody I know to do the same thing. Because if I would take one nigga's head off for that, then why would I give another nigga a pass for it? That makes me a sucker. You understand what I'm saying?
I feel like a lot of people are getting away with stuff because their friends ain't saying anything because they have more money or have more clout or have more status, so you just let them get away with stuff. Not you, but I'm just saying in general. Like, I feel like the richer people become and the higher in the social circles they become, the more they get away with stuff like this.
No, listen, that happens often to where, like I said, a woman will feel so bombarded with these advances that at a point she feels like she has no choice.
Right. For me, go ahead.
No, I'm listening, man. Go ahead.
I mean, for me, I'm very laid back and just kind of a smooth person when I'm out with friends, especially in the past. I haven't really been out with friends since I've been married. But before that, like, I've always been, you know, a kind of a cool, calm, collected person. So whenever I'm around somebody who's being extra, I'm just like, yo, chill. I'm always like, yo, just relax and just chill, because, you know, and it's not even because, you know, they could potentially, you know, end up in a scenario or a situation where they are sexually suggestive. It's more just like, yo, just, you know, the more chill you are, the more comfortable somebody will be around you, whether it's a woman or a man. Like, you just don't want to just be overcompensating by talking loudly or being aggressive. Just relax. Everybody's here to have a good time. You don't have to just be out of control, you know, all the time. You know what I'm saying? I learned that just from, you know, realizing what my personality is. I'm like, I'm not, you know, I'm cool. You know, I don't want to be around nobody that's going to be making people uncomfortable when they're around them and they want to go. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what, too, and a real one don't gotta use his position to get that. Honestly, like, if she into you, she into you. Like, your position ain't got nothing to do with that.
That's how I feel. So I feel the men who do this, I feel the same way. I feel like the men who do this, like abusers in any type of way, shape or form, anybody who does that is weak. Like you're weak, you've got like a lot of unresolved issues. You may have a complex, you may have, I don't know. I mean, I'm not about to diagnose anybody right now, but there are deep-rooted issues, and a lot of people who feel maybe they don't have control over certain areas of their life. Women is their prey and say, well, I can't control my friends, I can't control any of the men around me, so I'm going to control women because I mean,
like I think they're weak, and
so I feel like people who do stuff like that are just weak. They're using that as their outlet because they can't maybe be who they really want to be, or be perceived how they want to be perceived.
I want to get into something. Kaylin had checked me on this. Well, got at me about this on Twitter. So I want to get into this next leg of the conversation. Somebody had tweeted something, and I don't know the tweet verbatim, but he said, we're getting 1,000,001 tweets, but what did he say? He said, we're seeing a bunch of tweets, but not one arrest, or we're like, why isn't anybody going to the police? Something in regards to that, right, Kaylin?
Right. I think it was, why are you coming forth on Twitter instead of making police reports?
Yeah, there we go. Like not one, like all of these tweets, but not one arrest. Let's get into that aspect of it. Why if and I genuinely am asking this just to get a clarity on it from a woman's perspective. If these men are these kind of monsters, why aren't more women going to the authorities regarding it?
And all now or before? Oh, sorry.
It depends on how far the person went, because there are certain things legally they cannot be prosecuted for, or they cannot be indicted on. So if the person has just made, like little incendiary remarks, and then you feel uncomfortable, the police are always going to say, okay, so go and work somewhere else, go and do this. They're not going to.
No. I hear you, but let's be clear on the question. I'm talking about in terms of when it gets to the point where we're actually accusing a man of rape.
Okay.
We're to that point. We're actually accusing him of coercion and things of that nature.
Okay. So, thank you for clarifying your question.
Yeah. So Kayla, because Kayla was big on that part right there. I'm gonna get right back to you, Murtaugh. Give me a second. You know what I mean? But Kayla, you were big on that. So what was your thoughts on that?
I think in general, for men and women, when you're violated sexually like that, as far as rape, you're traumatized. So your first instinct is not, oh, I gotta call the police. Sometimes you just go through so much of a mental process that you never even get to that point because you're embarrassed. You're trying to figure out, so you could be manipulated into thinking that it's your own fault. You let it on, you let it get that far. I don't think it's fair to tell somebody where they should tell or to whom they should expose that to. I do get why you would want to take it to the police. Well, you should take it to the police, of course, but I get why it never gets that far. It's so many preliminary emotions and thought processes before you even get to that point, to be vulnerable enough to even share it. Some people never tell, so it's deeper than just, this is the structure. When somebody does something like that, you go to the police. It's not that easy. It's easier said than done. It's not right. It's not that straightforward always.
So there definitely is a whole emotional and a whole emotional and mental process that goes behind this that can last for years in women. Is what you're saying. Right. Got you. What's your thoughts on that, Eliza? Why aren't more women going to the police regarding these matters?
Are you talking about in this current case, or are you talking about like?
Well, we can just stick to this current case. We can just stick to this current case.
I mean, some of the things happened years ago. It's like, I feel like they're probably just saying, I'm relieved, I'm able to express myself, haven't been able to talk about it, but since everybody else is talking about it, I'm going to put my story out there. But it happened 70 years ago, so how much evidence do I really have? I don't know. It's really hard to answer that question.
Is there a big fear
of not being believed?
Is there a big fear of not being believed?
Of course, a very, very big fear of not being believed. Even like, these situations where a mother has a boyfriend and the boyfriend's abusing the daughter, and the child is scared to tell their mother because they're scared that they won't be believed. Not the level we're talking about. In general, people are scared of being believed with something so vulnerable. And the problem is it's a risk to speak about it, because if you speak about it and you're not believed, now people are looking at you as a liar. Disgusting. She brought it on herself. There's just so many things that are attached once you put that story out there. Once you put it out, you can't take it back. And I feel like once you put it out, there's a lot of emotional repercussions that you have to deal with after it. So it's hard.
Like Jane, with your situation, even if you had went to, let's say, the heads of Global Ground at that time, what was your thought process behind it? Waste of time, like, well, nothing won't come out of it. Like, what was your thoughts?
Well, I did tell my team members, some of my editors on the staff, because they had the same incidents. I asked them, like, oh, like, how many times has this happened to people? And they're like, oh, it's just something that it just happens. I'm like, well, why doesn't anyone say anything? And I think, especially right now, especially with the Me Too movement, people are feeling more empowered to say something. Like, it's that so many women are going through this. It's not as scary to feel like you don't feel like the only person who goes through this anymore. And I think that's kind of why women now are speaking up and going to the police and saying all this kind of stuff, because they feel like, I guess back then, they just didn't feel like they had, anyone had their back on this.
Yeah.
I think now it's like everyone knows someone who's been through this, or they've been through it themselves. So they're just like empowered to speak up about it, I guess.
Gotcha. Murtel, do you think these complaints fall on deaf ears, or do you think women aren't saying anything?
I think that it's kind of like a two-sided coin, where there are certain people, depending on where they work and depending on who's around them, it may not be believed. They may just say, oh, that's how he is. And then, they'll just keep it moving. And then you have other women who feel so much shame, because not only are they dealing with the emotional drama, with the emotional trauma of the situation, they're dealing with the physical trauma, but also some women, depending on their cultural background, their ethnic background, their family may disown them because of it.
I got you.
Go ahead. I'm listening. Out in the media, like it is right now the family's going to be like, so you let this man touch you. Now she's owned by the family. So now she's thinking about all those things. So she's just like, you know what? I'm not going to say nothing.
Yeah.
Society has a way of making it seem like it's always the woman's fault.
Right. Yeah, we definitely need to break that barrier. Like, we definitely need to, that is the one barrier I feel like we need to break. Like, it's never a woman's fault for being dealt with in an inappropriate manner, especially sexually. Let's talk about the Me Too movement real quick. Do you think that's
I just want to real quick, Paige. So I just want to read a tweet that I wrote October 25th of last year.
Go ahead.
I said, a victim can take as long as they need to process what transpired between what happened to them and their bodies. I find it very telling that women take as long as they possibly can to admit they have been assaulted, which shows strength and courage. Because I have yet to hear countless tales of men being drugged and raped, or men being raped in jail and coming forth with their accusers. Wow. So, when you consider, we all know men who have gone to jail, and and all of these men, nobody has seen rape, nobody has been raped, so, and they will never admit it, and they will never probably come forward until they're probably in their 60s, 70s, because it's a pride thing. Women experience the same thing, not pride-wise, but shame-wise, and, I think it's I don't know if we should put a timeline on when a woman, should come forward. That's a psychological thing that we could probably never process, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Nor could we even begin to understand or even fathom it. That's why, like I said, I thought it was more than important to have these young women on the show, on this episode, to talk about this, because I feel like as men, we fly off the hip with these comments on what they should or shouldn't do, but we're not in their shoes.
And especially if you're a woman and you're looking at someone who's supposed to be like your mentor, that's supposed to be helping you in the business They're just coming in, and you're looking at this person as, you know, someone that's supposed to be giving you guidance, and now they put you in that kind of position. You're like, yo, now you've just turned away a whole bunch of women that could have potentially been great.
No, listen. Even when Kaylin got at me about just me simply agreeing with something, that gave me a dose of reality, and she was right. Like, I have no clue how to even deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, so it's kind of silly of me to even think, well, why aren't they doing this, or why didn't they do that? Like, you can't even begin to process it as a man.
Right. And I feel like, you know, I had to learn. I'm sorry, I ain't mean to cut you off, but I feel like I had to learn. I had to learn that as well, you know, and I feel like that is just something that is not taught to men, you know what I'm saying? Because again, we were brought up in a scenario where, you know, we follow a specific set of guidelines when it comes to women, what they may experience. And if something happened to us, either we handle it ourselves or we go to the cops. But we haven't experienced a level of trauma that they potentially have experienced. So we think we're giving good advice, but go to the cops, you know, tell them what you went through. But again, like the young lady said on the chat, they may not even be believed. You know, they may be told to just go away, you know, and sometimes in some cases, they, you know, the cops may side with the men. So now you have a situation where you just, it's just a hamster wheel of depression that, you know, bleeds into a woman's psyche.
Or for a lot of them too, they don't want to relive the whole thing all over again.
And one other aspect that I don't want to make it a racial thing, but Black women are the most undervalued, disrespected, you know, group of people on this planet.
Well, let's get into this then. How can, as a Black woman, how can you feel more protected by Black men?
Well, it's always like my brother's keeper. What about my sister's keeper? What about, you know, making sure that we good?
What about you, Jane? What's your thoughts on that? How can you feel more protected by Black men? Or more respected by Black men?
If you respect your mother, who is a Black woman, you should be able to treat all Black women with that same amount of respect and that same amount of admiration and that same amount of care. You came from one, why can't you treat all of us the same?
What do you think, Kayla?
I think it helps when Black men are not so, when they listen more. Because sometimes when you go to them, they already have these preconceived notions. So I think it takes a lot of listening and trying to understand for me to feel supported, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Sometimes I think, I don't want to make it a Black man thing, but sometimes Black men, when they're approached by Black women, they already think they know everything sometimes. So I think...
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Yeah, so I think listening and trying to understand is a very big step overall.
Got you. What's your thoughts, Eliza? How can you feel more respected and more protected by Black men?
Tough one. I don't know, man. I just think in general, it would just be great to see more examples of, you know, Black men who uplift women, whether it's publicly, whether it's privately, who make it their business to, you know what I mean, to just spread the word about how great Black women are and how, you know, celebrated that they should be. I feel like any opportunity that there is to lift us up should be taken. I don't know whether it's on social media, whether it's in real life. I just feel like if you see a Black woman being mistreated, say something about it, speak up about it, even if you don't do it in that situation, speak to your friend, speak to your brother. I just think there just needs to be more conversations like this and just more conversations in general about, you know, what, I don't know, man. It's a tough one. I feel like it's just so deep rooted and there's just so many things I could say about it, but.
No, I'm with you. I'm listening. That's what we're here for. Yo, Mick, my brother, how can we do better? As men, as Black men, how can we do better?
I mean, I think the what we can do better is by listening. I think listening is the ultimate thing that we can do better to respect Black women, protecting them, you know, letting them know that they are safe around us. And if there's ever any situation where they feel uncomfortable, whether with you or with someone you know or someone you don't know, that you would be there to protect them in that scenario and in that situation. I mean, I think that's the best. And I think that's really the only thing. And just like the sister said, you know, we say, am I my brother's keeper, but am I my sister's keeper? Am I my, you know, friends, my female friend's keeper, pardon me. And I think that's essentially what needs to be done and should be done, because again, we have no idea what it's like to be a woman and to feel vulnerable at any given moment. You know what I'm saying? And I actually, you know what, I'm gonna bring up another point. And this is kind of what changed my viewpoint on talking to women in the streets. So it's a funny story, but it's also something that we can kind of look back at and be like, wow, I see his point now. So one day, I'm in Atlanta. So you already know where this story is going. And I go to Lenox Hill Mall. And while I'm in Lenox Hill Mall, I'm trying to buy some clothing. So while I'm trying to buy some clothing, there's a pack of men, gay men, who are in front of the Louis Vuitton store. Now, this is 2000, I want to say this is 2009 or maybe 2010. And this is when, you know, I didn't have the beard. I was a little shaven. I was a little slimmer. I was wearing, you know, more expensive clothing. I was just out here wilding. So while I'm walking through Lenox Hill Mall, 7 to 8 men see me, gay men, and I get catcalled. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, so my brain automatically just kind of shut off because I didn't know what to do. Like, it just kind of was like, you know what I'm saying? Because initially, if it's one guy, I'm ready to fight. But if it's 8 guys, and again, it's 8 men, like 5 of them are like feminine, but 3 of them is like tough. You know what I'm saying? And no matter how effeminate a man may come across, they are still a man and they're still strong. So I'm hearing oh, he look good. Look at his jeans. So mentally, my brain shut down. And I was like, I look and I was like, oh, that's crazy. Right. And I just keep walking, because if I cause a scene, not only could I get stomped out, not only would I probably get beat up, but then, you know what I'm saying, it's like, if that gets out, like, it's like, oh, you know, Mickey got beat up by 8 gay men, you know what I'm saying, who were trying to holler at him while I was trying to defend myself. So from that point forward, I realized what women go through on a consistent daily basis, especially in New York, block the block. Right. And I felt terrible. And it was an awakening moment for me. And it was like, wow, like, and I'm a Cancer, so like, I never really like to approach. I'm sensitive. I never really like to approach women because I fear rejection. So it's just like that. I'm not going to touch a woman in public like that. Well, while like I'm on a train or like walking down, I'm not going to do that. If we're in a social event, then it's easier to break the ice. But like in just regular going home or going to the store, that's not something that I do. So when that happened to me, it hit me in my head, like, this is what women go through, and this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that. I don't know, you know,
right, because you get it.
Yeah, I got it at that moment. I got it.
And I think another thing that you guys can also do is, you know, break the cycle, because sometimes men have seen their fathers treat women a certain kind of way. So now it's time for you guys to teach the next generation, okay, this is how you're supposed to treat women. This is how women, you know, you talk to a woman. This is how you approach a girl, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm gonna say this, man. These instances you're hearing about isn't an indicator of you know, the real men that are out here. There's still a few men who really, you know, have a strong have a strong belief in protecting women and being a man, having nuts, having testosterone. And don't let these goofballs overshadow the ones that are truly here to hold it down. Like I said, I got 4 sisters. So I've been on that type of time since forever. I'm the oldest. So a phone call gets, but my sisters are all taught, you don't argue with no man. You call me. That's what I'm here for. You understand what I'm saying? So there are still men who really live to that letter of the law, and who like, there's never been a time in my life where any black woman has been disrespected in my presence. You know what I'm saying? We just don't play those games. So, you know, this conversation was amazing, and I definitely tip my hat to each and every single one of you ladies that's here, because, like I said, as a man, I have no clue how to either fathom half of what you've gone through or what you've had to deal with in your time. But I will say that, you know, there are black men who look at you as sisters, as queens, and as the supreme beings on this earth. Just know that there are men out here that still hold you to that height.
And I don't think you understand that someone could be sitting at home right now and hear what you just said, and you breathed life back into them. But sometimes we need to hear that from black men, that you are worthy, that you are beautiful, that you are powerful, that you have all these wonderful attributes.
Right.
Sometimes women are not getting that, and then they're just getting the negatives. They're not going to want to open up their mouths and accept that, you know, this is what's going on with them.
But, and too, at the same time, I do feel, and this might be just me on the outside looking at it, I do feel y'all voices are more powerful now than ever. I mean, look at what's going on Twitter the last 2 days. Like, these guys' lives have been uprooted in 48 hours off of your voices. So we need to applaud that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's how strong I feel like the black woman's voice is now. Y'all need to continue to use it. You see something, say something. Anything that's inappropriate, speak out about it. You understand what I'm saying? Because the real ones are going to hear you. Trust me.
I also want to insert, I think it's important for men to check each other too. When you see your friend approaching somebody inappropriately. And I'll also say this too, when he mentioned New York, I think when I go to New York, men are definitely more aggressive there than they are down south.
Oh, hell
and like
yeah.
you said, block to block.
Right.
And sometimes that's a nice thing to know that you have an alpha man. But when it gets to the point where it's like, if you're I think that's another thing too. I meant to mention that earlier. I think men in general need to know how to deal with rejection. I don't think anybody's ever taught that. I think we need to talk about that more, how we handle rejection, when to know when we've been rejected. Because even some people don't even understand no means no. So, but I think it's important to check each other, men. I think we would appreciate that more if we see, that would help us in feeling more supported by black men if we see you all checking each other. I know I would like to see it.
Right.
So
No, I think me and Mickey definitely touched on that knowing how to. Well, like I said, I don't know if we got a thing out here we call respecting the curve. So that's basically what that means in terms of just knowing how to deal with rejection.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you approach someone and she just basically isn't showing the interest back, you keep it pushing. You don't keep pursuing it. You don't keep trying to get in her ear. You don't keep trying to push the envelope. You just keep it moving. That interest doesn't come back. For the first little hint, boom, we keep it pushing. You understand what I'm saying? But you're absolutely right. Like, we need to control. Like, there's a difference between being alpha male and being aggressive. Two different things. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Like, no, alpha male isn't here to force themselves on any woman.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's definitely what we need to learn. But like I said, I think this conversation, I would hope it unblurred those lines for a lot of people, especially hearing it from your voices and hearing it directly from y'all. You understand what I'm saying? And you know, one last question before we get up out here. The Me Too movement. I gotta touch on this. There's no way we can get through all this and not touch on that real quick. Do y'all feel it's for black women? Do black women feel inclusion into that, or do y'all feel like it stops short of black women?
It was started by black women.
Okay.
You know, feminism can't work without inclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it kind of did become this big Hollywood thing, small flex. I interviewed Tarana Burke a couple years ago, the founder of the Me Too movement, and she did say this exact same thing. It started as a way for young Black girls to feel listened to and heard when, you know, someone approached them or they had a relative that was inappropriate with them. It was supposed to be a place. It started as a small gathering for girls to feel heard, especially all Black women to feel heard. And it did become this whole this grassroots thing. But she did say it did become Hollywood, and it kind of the message got lost. The message to get, like she said this from her own mouth, Tarana Burke.
You gotta expound on that a little bit. I can't just let you
She even said that she even said she doesn't even really like hearing the term Me Too anymore.
Yeah, she's like, and she was actually really upset at first when who was that actress? Ashley Judd. Was it Ashley Judd?
You mean Alyssa Milano?
Alyssa Milano. When they were crediting her as the founder, she was like, I did this. And then eventually Alyssa Milano did come forward. She's like, oh no, I didn't make this up. This is a Black woman. She started this. And then I think people started seeing that it was supposed to be an inclusive thing. And I think it is an inclusive thing, but I think that people are sort of taking the Hollywood, the sensationalism of it, and seeing how people are just being taken down and down and down. And I think that people are being like, oh, it's just a way to take down men, when it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be women sharing their stories and women feeling connected to each other through these sort of situations. And I think that if we find a way to get back to what it's supposed to be about, then I think that people who don't fully understand the movement will start to get a little bit more clarity about it.
Well, listen, listen, let me tell you something. I'm all for exposing sucker shit, regardless of where it comes from and what it's about. I'm all for that. Let's keep that going, because that's necessary. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, when people walk in a room, they should know who they're walking in a room with.
And also, I feel like with the Me Too movement, when I was paying attention to the Women's March that happened, I see that a lot of the African-American / Black women's experiences were not put too much on the forefront as the white women. And
they don't know how to always include people.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we're women, we're feminists, but, you know, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially, you know, with other issues, not just with, you know, sexual harassment and rape and stuff like that. It always happens like that, where we're with you, but to a certain point.
Right,
like,
right.
We'll take you to the house, but we're not going to go inside with you.
Right, right. Well, that's when listen, let me say.
And that's something that we as women need to work out amongst ourselves. Like, why white women, Black women, brown, Asian, why we can't all coexist together, because one man is doing something for if one man is doing something to a Black girl, he could go around and do it to an Asian girl the next day. So now we both in the same boat, but we hate each other and we won't even come together to take down this one person.
Well, let me tell you something, man. No position in the world is stronger than your voices. I don't give a fuck who he is. I don't give a fuck what CEO, what boss, or whatever leader he claims to be. Your voices are more powerful than that, and especially as a collective. So, I mean, going forward, hopefully we could get to a point to where it is a new day. You know, and that's I think that's what we're all, you know, actively pushing for with all of these things, is getting to that point where it is a new day for Black women, where there is that fear is no longer that fear of speaking up. We finally get rid of that and understand that, you know, certain things are just not fucking okay. That's what it is. Just certain things is not okay. You understand what I'm saying? It's not cool. It's not okay.
It'd be nice if we get to the day where, you know, a man will think twice before he, you know, I mean, with any type of behavior like this, where a man is actually fearful, even if he has the thought to be inappropriate, even if he wants to, just because he knows, damn, if I do this, it might come back to bite me in the ass. There might be a Zoom call about this later on today. whatever the case may be. If that fear can be instilled in men too, that would be great. But I guess, as you said, the more that people speak up about it,
well, it starts with days like these. These are those days where we get to that point. But listen, man, I want to. This was an amazing dialogue. It was an amazing conversation with some amazing women. I thank all of you so much. I commend each and every single one of you for having the courage and bravery to even talk about these things publicly. And let's get everybody's social media so they know where to get at you for anything. Jana, let's start with you. What's your social media? Where can people find you at?
You can find me at JNA Jefferson, like the president, the good president. Well, he wasn't a good president either. On Twitter and Instagram.
Got you. Murtab?
At Haitian Boss Material on Instagram.
Kaylin?
Instagram, I am Firecracker Kaylin, KAYLYN, the number 2, and on Facebook as Kaylin Lowry.
Got you. Eliza?
Eliza_Queen. So that's ELIZA_Queen.
Got you. And Mick, my brother, man, I cannot thank you enough for your time and jumping in on this with us, man. Let them know. For those who don't know, Mickey Fax is one of the more, I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this, man. One of the most prolific MCs we've ever seen. So let them know where they can find you and get your music at.
Thank you, appreciate that. You can find me at Instagram, Mickey, MICKEY, the period, .FACTZ on Instagram, Mickey Fax on Twitter, and Mickey Fax on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? I'll type it in here so y'all could, hit me up.
Yes. And all of these people do dope things in their realms of the world. So definitely get at them for any type of need you have. I'm Peso PMG Biz on Twitter, Peso PMG on Instagram. Holla at me. Ladies, gents, gracias. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Bye. This was great.
Nice to see
Great
you.
chat.
All right, peace.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.
They said,
Kaylin's still up. You're on the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, so you got the nice sun.
Right?
The sun is good, I will say that.
Been dark all day. Miserable and sad.
Oh, y'all
Yeah,
gotta
it's
come
been
on out,
like
man.
mad rainy all day. I think it's supposed to be nice Saturday. Maybe.
Saturday, fingers crossed.
Where y'all at? Are we still streaming on Facebook?
no, I just.
It still says recording, but let's.
We can
I'm gonna stop the video now. Well, good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, bye.
I was gonna say because I just ended it off of Facebook. So
Okay.
Okay.
You know,
Oh, good. Okay.
so like a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
this was something loaded, man. We can't even touch everything.
There was so much.
It's
No,
just
but-
so.
This is like a very personal. I don't want to say, like it's very personal because I've seen so many people that I know deal with this.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was a manager for a very, for a reputable company.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that in the business that I was in, this
Mhm.
type of stuff does not happen. But
Wow.
it happened, and I've seen women literally run out of HR in tears because they just been fired for saying certain things.
What happened? Right.
And I was just like, oh my God. So now it was to the point for me where whenever I would go inside like a boardroom conference calls or any meetings that we would have, and I see that it's all of the directors are in there and they're all men, my phone is on record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So at least if I say something,
Right.
I have my evidence.
Right.
I'm covering myself, but it's something that I think we need to all get together and figure out what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel comfortable leaving this earth knowing that my child, my grandchild, is going to have to deal with that. Like, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
This is what, our ancestors fought and bled for,
Right.
and we can't get this shit together.
Wow.
We got to do better. We got to do better. This is
So, because I didn't get to know what happened with the Chris Styles thing. He was a promoter who
Because
did
he was
what?
like a party promoter, and he was apparently like touching girls at Duce Palooza and like whipping his dick out and stuff, and like being real creepy. And every time he would like ask them for like sexual favors, and he said